Okay, welcome back. We left off on the winning definition of fluency, and this is my favorite one because I feel as if it encompasses everything we've been discussing regarding fluency. So, fluency combines accuracy, automaticity, and oral reading prosody, which taken together facilitate the reader's construction of meaning. It is demonstrated during oral reading through ease of word recognition, appropriate pacing, phrasing, and intonation. It is a factor in both oral and silent reading that can limit or support comprehension. Okay, so how do we assess it? Well, there's constrained versus unconstrained. Oh, let me go back over here. So constrained, I want you to think of these type of assessments as very limiting. Um, they take a short time to do, and usually constrained assessments would assess skills that students learn very early on. So alphabetic knowledge, so naming the alphabet sounds, these are very short assessments versus unconstrained, which would be comprehension because it's more open ended. You are assessing different elements of comprehension. So when we are assessing fluency, you don't just want to assess prosody, you're looking for other dimensions of fluency, and you also need to assess comprehension when you are assessing fluency as well. So this is why we need to watch out for DIBELS. I know a lot of schools use this, and they heavily rely on the results to make groups and to target students. So please watch out for this because it doesn't really place an emphasis on comprehension. It kind of treats fluency as a lower level skill when in fact we should be placing emphasis not only on fluency but on comprehension as well. Okay, so strictly looking at reading rate oversimplifies the relationship between word recognition and comprehension. There are times when a slower reading rate is needed for comprehension. So this is something to consider when you are assessing your students. Sometimes we just read slower because we're just trying to make sense of what is happening. I know I read slower when I'm reading academic journals and textbooks. So just like us, students are very similar to us. Okay, moving on. So recommendations for assessments. The assessment must be more than words correct per minute. So running records. So here in running records, we code readers' behavior. Miscue analysis. So we're looking closely at the miscues. Need a prosody indicator. So we have one that's in your Lipson and Whisken. What was that? Lipson and Wixon on page 467. And this is the NAEP, Oral Reading Fluency Scale. We have, there's a multi-dimensional fluency scoring guide. So these are ones that you can easily look up online, and you would score them based on different parts of prosody and fluency. So maybe the pitch or the intonation. So go ahead and take a look at those when you have a moment, or if you ever have a moment. I know we've been pretty busy this semester. Also make sure that these assessments include a measure of comprehension. So retelling rubric, questions focus on different levels of comprehension. So not just the literal questions, you want to also make sure there's questions that have the student make interpretations and reading between the lines and using critical thinking skills. Okay, so strategies for developing fluency. Okay, we need consistent practice and repetition. This can definitely help in that area. Wide reading of text. So we want them reading different genres. That way they get exposed to different vocabulary words and different concepts. Neurological impress method. Sounds very fancy, but it's actually just having someone sit side by side, like a tutor or a parent or you, and you're reading the text slightly faster and louder than the student while both follow the text with your fingers. Okay, the dyad reading, which is very similar to the one before. It's when another person, student, parent reads with the student, usually alternating and providing a summary. There's different variations that I've seen online, but I know that when you're working with a primary student, you sometimes really can't get a summary from them because they really haven't learned how to summarize. So again, different variations of this. Echo reading is when the student is or a class is repeating the teacher. So if I was reading a decodable text or a reader, I would say a sentence with proper expression and in my pitch and phrasing, and they would echo the same thing back. Okay, readers theater, where they get a script and of course it's at their level. And this is always a fun and engaging way to get students to read in front of the class. Okay, so these are strategies for developing fluency, and I'd like to leave you with our launch. So my 5-year-old students are learning to read. Yesterday, one of them pointed at a picture in a zoo book and said, "Look at this, it's a freaking elephant." I took a deep breath, then asked, "What did you call it?" "It's a freaking elephant. It says so on the picture." And so it does. Hooked on phonics, ain't it wonderful? So I thought that was pretty funny, and hopefully you found it too. All right, so I managed to get this done in less than 7 minutes, so hooray for me.